Guys, we're about to begin. Okay. You guys, first of all, welcome everyone to this, actually the first seminar, I believe, in the history of the British Columbia Amateur Bodybuilding Association. What we're about to embark on is record-breaking in terms of information to you as competitors, non-members, members, people that are possibly interested in performing, or rather competing in the BC ABBA. Just a quick show of hands here. Is anyone just been competing for about 1 or 2 years here? Just a quick show of hands. 1 or 2 years? How about 3 to 5 years? Anyone in the 5 to 10 year category? Okay. So those that are in the 5 to 10 year category, you guys can obviously see that there's been a lot of change. So what this type of seminar is essentially a new branding for the BC ABBA. What does this mean? It means that we encourage complete transparency in things that we do. We want to provide the marketplace with information that allows you as a competitor, you as a member, you as possibly a non-member, the same information that is afforded to everybody that wants to compete. Why? And why is this important? It's for you guys to make better informed choices in terms of what you want to do with your career, and possibly, of course, fulfilling a goal of becoming an IFBB pro. So, you guys, here's our agenda. And we appreciate everyone coming, obviously, on a Saturday morning. We want to make sure that we're respectful of the time in terms of all the content that we've got to get through. You can see here, I'm going to give you just a slight introduction to the BC ABBA, and at which point the two-stream approach will be discussed by Ms. Victoria Felker, and afterwards we'll get into how do athletes navigate through each show. We'll turn the time over to Corey and Dean, who are the promoters of our traditional street. We're going to start asking you guys to continue to educate yourself in terms of the terminology that is going to transpire from this particular seminar. You guys are agents of change when it comes to this type of ideology. This ideology is going to align itself with what's happening with the IFBB. The whole purpose of the BC ABBA is to support the IFBB, not act as a fracture to it. This is the purpose of what we're doing at this point in time. The whole idea afterwards is that when you guys leave, that you make an impact to the people that are around you. If you're a personal trainer, you're an individual that wants to compete, these are the things that you should be discussing with individuals. The purpose of this is so when you leave here, you are educated in terms of why we are doing these things. Why is there a two-stream approach? Speaking personally, there is a two-stream approach because we are taking it back to when the BC ABBA first began. The only show in the history of the BC ABBA was the Western Canadians. Then in 1985-ish, 86, 87-ish, we had the Santa Rican Fall Classic. There's only 2 shows in the BC ABBA at that point. Now, fast forward to today, you can see the growth of where the association is at this point. Afterwards, we will field questions in part 4, questions and answers. If you do have questions pertaining to what's being asked, I ask that you just table it to the side so we can get through the content. Afterwards, we will then have part 5, which is the athlete involvement and volunteering. And then at which point, we'll have some closing remarks. Okay? So, introduction to the BC ABBA. Please, make yourself comfortable, guys. Make yourself comfortable. Okay. You guys, one of the major changes that the BC ABBA has implemented was taking the construct of an organization that was hokey-pokey. Okay? What I mean by hokey-pokey, there were no standards, there were no policies, there were no procedures. The first thing that we had to do is implement was a mission statement. What is the purpose of us being here? This way, everyone that's on the ship of the BC ABBA has clear direction of what we're doing. Second to that, we have to create a code of ethics. This code of ethics determines everyone's conduct, just not individuals that are sitting on the top in managerial positions, director positions, but this holds everyone accountable. So therefore, we can create transparency in the dealings that we're dealing. This is important. Further to this, it was substantiated with the terms and conditions to become a member. No longer are you allowed to just defame people on social media. No longer are you allowed to talk about people in that manner. We encourage you to discuss things, but be diplomatic and professional. Social media is a great tool, which will be exemplified by some of the information that we'll pass on to you today. But when used in the wrong context, it's damaging. The damage is irreversible when it comes to the branding of us, the BC ABBA, which is part of the CBBF, which supports the IFBB. This is very important for everyone to understand. So when you see these terms and conditions, there's a purpose behind it. The second thing that we offered was a more structure inside the organization. So the power for making decisions are divested amongst people. So there are a lot of people at the table for discussions that are then putting to vote what they think. They're bringing their core competency to the table so that they can then make suggestions based upon their aptitude and understanding of the things that they want to propel forward. We've created directors, managers, assistants, coordinators. This is all exemplified by the organizational structure that's on our website. In short, why do we do this? We did this to support you as athletes. If your dream is to become an IFBB pro, you are sitting in the right room. If your dream is to support the association and make a good impact in people's lives, you're sitting in the right room. I encourage you guys then to take this information that you're going to be learning and empower others with it. When we start to change and be agents of change, then you're going to see a tsunami of information and people saying, yeah, you know what, we support what's happening here. And this is the purpose of this seminar, is to continually educate. Because in reality, change is very hard for people. But change is inevitable, my friends. And if you're not an agent of change, you're not going to do well. Raphael, the president of the IFBB, said, bodybuilding is the passion for good health and active life. This is why we're putting on this seminar. I want you guys to understand that the IFBB is not just a sanctioned event coordination. What this really empowers is WADA doping control, Olympic committees, large organizations that are multinational. So when we say we represent the IFBB, that means we are a multinational corporation. We are part of this. So the actions and the things that we do here, they absolutely have ripple effects. Keep that in mind, that yes, we are on the west coast of Canada, but we are actually part of something a lot larger. So in terms of supporting the IFBB and making sure that we are aligning ourselves with what the IFBB is all about, we've obviously adopted and introduced new classes. Bodybuilding is the foundation of everything. But we have our men's physique, classic physique, figure, bikini. You can see a lot of these new classes are starting to come up. In the last 3 to 5 years, these things were obsolete. They weren't around. So when I say to you that be agents of change, well, guess what, you guys? Change is happening. It just takes a little bit for it to trickle down into our association from the national levels and the international levels. We obviously offer memberships for non-competing and competing people. We encourage both sides. We want everybody to be part of this growth and to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind. In terms of associate memberships and competitive memberships, it's very clear the portal to get through into the association. If you have any questions in terms of why there are terms and conditions, feel free to email me personally. And of course, within 1 day, I will get back to you. When I made mention about the impact of social media, this same time year to date, we had no impact in social media. The only impact that social media was used for was for what? For people to complain, for people to talk poorly about others. This is not the case anymore. As you can see, of all the beta testing and then rolling out the testing modules, you can see the impact that our social media division, as well as our digital media division, has made. We are spotlighting athletes. You don't have to live in the Lower Mainland to be spotlighted. If you are an athlete and you're competing and you're at the top level, we will find out about you and we will spotlight you. This is not a cliquey thing anymore. This is not an I anymore. This is a we. What can we do together to better this? I encourage you guys to consistently act diplomatic, cordial, professional when you guys are on social media. This is an important and invaluable tool. We are monitoring these things, but we encourage complete transparency so you guys can discuss this. But use it wisely, you guys. These are the shows. So, mid-80s, early 80s, early 90s, 2 shows. Can you imagine that? 2 shows. 450 people waiting. You got 100 people outside the Massey Theater just waiting to get in for their show. Well, now we've opened up the gates. We've got 9 shows. We've got 7 Tier 1. What do I mean by Tier 1? Tier 1 is very simple. It's a qualification into BC Cup or the BC Provincials. We will discuss later on in this seminar in terms of the 2-stream approach. But notice that we are placing shows geographically. Prince George, Fort St. John, Kelowna, so we can encourage other areas of the province to come and compete. Although the shows may not be as big as the shows in the Lower Mainland, this is a necessary condition to ensure what we're talking about as an organization, where we say we encompass everybody. This is very important. We encourage you guys at this stage, as I turn the time over to Victoria Felker, and I want to introduce why we are doing this in terms of the peer committee, the new division of the Director of Performance Education, Ethics and Compliance, our academic consultant. What we have strived to do as an organization, you guys, is that when the individuals that are sitting in these chairs leave, that you guys are educated and empowered enough to possibly fill these positions. Not just people that are hand-selected or buddy-buddy with people, but that people that do have a skill set that can actually add value to this association, not hinder the growth. And this is what we've done. When we talk about the new division of Performance Ethics and Education and Compliance, this was a necessary condition that was mandated from the CBBF annual general meeting that occurred in Edmonton in 2015. At that particular table, the presidents of the affiliates turned to the province of British Columbia and said, help. And we said, no problem. We, through an external SWOT analysis, determined that there are 5,000 non-members that are competing in other associations. Through that SWOT analysis, we determined that our membership growth will be about 33% this year. Meaning, 1,300 when we were in 2015, just under 2,000 people is what we expect. My projections in the next 3 years, we should have about 4,000 members. And this is why we are creating these type of seminars, so we can help people understand that this is bigger than just an individual. This is now a collective movement. And if you don't want to be part of the movement, that's fine. Leave the room. But if you do want to be part of the movement, then I encourage you to be this agent of change. So when you're going to listen to people speak to you and say, hey, this is why we call this the traditional stream. This is why we call this an open stream. This is what happens if you get caught swimming in a different pool. We encourage everyone to compete, but choose wisely. We've created the Performance Education and Ethics Compliance Division. This is fielded by Miss Victoria Felker. She has a PhD, or rather, almost completing her PhD. This is her forte. So when we say we don't want yes people at the table, we want people that are educated, that can add value. This is what she has done. She has spearheaded this. There have been times when I said, Victoria, I'm swimming in uncharted territory, please help me. So she stood in front. This is what we mean by you guys now being agents of change and helping this. So we encourage you now, and I ask that you guys put your hands together as I introduce Ms. Victoria Felton, the Director of Qualification.
I'm going to try to do this without a mic, because I've got too many things and only one choice. So, what I'm going to suggest though is that there is some seats up front. Anybody in the back pocket there needs to come in a little bit more, because we are filled with people. So, you guys can just go make the room, get some more people in. There are 3 beautiful empty mats.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
I teach you ABC, same thing.
There you go. Did I just kick it?
Okay, so I'm going to just briefly introduce a couple concepts. Again, we're going to have a Q&A part at the end. I'll turn the table over to me and Corey. They're going to kind of continue on, but I really want to try to provide some context so we all kind of understand why we've got these shows, why they're called certain names. And then they're going to throw the ball back to me, and I'm going to go through some more, I guess, nitty-gritty stuff, but it also is going to be able for me to get help from you guys. It's been lonely doing this because in my position, I've been really lucky that I'm actually taking research that's being currently done and then being able to turn it into something that we're using right away. So oh, can I?
Yeah.
Can I go louder?
Sure.
Okay. Mics make me nervous. I don't know why, but I can speak louder. So essentially, we saw how many people have competed in the BC ABBA for a while now. So we now have an introduction of 2 streams. So in the past, it was 1 stream, 1 journey. So if you think about BC ABBA as being a vessel to get from here to the IFBB, there was only one way to do that. Okay? So, beautiful drawings help to demonstrate. From BC ABBA, you went on to nationals or one of the national competitions, and then if you were so fortunate, you're popped into the IFBB Pro Division. The problem with that though is that people were kind of getting lost at the wayside. There was a lot of different technical changes that happened in the NPC. We know the NPC is quite a bit bigger than we are up here. Rule changes about who could actually get pro cards, how to qualify, and also it really wasn't catering to the entire audience, or the potential stakeholders, the potential members. So what the IFBB did in 2015 is they actually created a new stream, but they haven't fully brought that in yet. They are in the process of it. We're the first organization to do this in the world. So that's one of the fun things I get to do with my job is I get to talk to them, they tell me what they need, and we get actually be the test, the pilots to do this, which is phenomenal. So now if we think about trying to go up through the ranks, we're still all BC ABBA, but now you get to choose which stream you take. You can go with our open stream, our traditional stream, and they are still both going to put you forward, okay? So, unlike in the past where we had opens that could kind of cross over, hope that there was some type of testing done in the world qualifiers, or vice versa, that's no longer the case. It's 2 distinct streams. So, really, I mean, other than the terms, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, pretty simple, right? Option 1, option 2, okay? Now, what Corey and Dean are going to talk about is they're going to talk about specifically in the BCABBA, how do you qualify for particular shows, and how are you able to progress through the 2 streams? Because we have 2 tiers and 2 streams. So, I'm going to give it over to Corey and Dean.
Perfect. I just want to start out by asking you guys a couple of questions. Who here are non-members, new members, or people getting ready for a show for the first time? Great. Thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate that. And you know, we're here to support you guys, whatever your dreams and your goals are within the sport. Can also ask people here, who is either sponsored, brand ambassadors, have some affiliation to a supplement company, a clothing company, anything like that? Please raise your hand. Great, so you can see, you know, we're looking at almost a quarter of people. Now, of you same people that raised your hand, how many obtain those opportunities, either competing with the BC ABBA or around the BC ABBA? You know, as you look around, you see almost everybody raise their hand again. Because here at the BC ABBA, what we do is we allow you guys have a platform to be successful, to enrich the lives of your families, and to be able to, truly inspire and reach your goals within the fitness community. So we pride ourselves on that. We're just here to give you the platform to allow you to aspire and to allow you to achieve those goals. And through that, as you see, we have a number of new events coming on board, and we have some really powerhouse promoters that have been doing this for a long time. So the quality of show that you're going to get this year from the BC ABBA is truly world class. When you step on the stage at Fort St. John, or you step on the stage at the Massey Theatre in New West, you're not stepping onto an average stage you would find at a regional level show. You're honestly stepping on stage at a show that is professionally produced, that would match any show you would see in California, Las Vegas, or anywhere in the NPA or NPA. The first show of the year is actually promoted by Mr. Dean Brandt, the Lee Brandt Classic, and there's Lee right there, our wonderful IFBB pro. And as you can see, Lee obviously was probably one of the pioneers in the bikini category. And so you do have an opportunity here, and you can see throughout the room, and people in British Columbia who have gone on to become pros, and have actually gone on to have careers within this industry and be able to provide a living for themselves doing what they love to do. So the Lee Brandt show starts on March 19th, so we get the season going in our open category. That's also going to be the first show that we have the classic physique in as well. After that, we turn to June 18th, which will be up in Fort St. John with Jenny Briscoe. Jenny is a 15-year vet putting on shows up there, and I've been up to Fort St. John. Anybody who's competed up there or been up there knows that that is the highlight in the community that day. You go there, you have a complete sold-out show, and that show matters to that community, and that show is one that, if you need to qualify to Tier 1 show, is definitely one that you should consider. After that, we have Michelle Crack, who will be promoting the BC Open Provincial Show as well, which is happening July 9th and July 10th. We'll touch more on the Tier 2 aspect of that in a little bit. Fall to that, we have Premier Night doing a Night of Champion in September, which will be in Surrey. And then we have, in addition to that, actually a second-year show, Tamara's show. So we're definitely looking to build upon what we did last year. It was an incredible show for our first time. So we definitely have to give Tamara, all the props for putting on that new show. Another second-year show will be the one that we have in Prince George, which is put on by Harley Green, I believe, which is another great show that actually really exemplified what the BC ABBA is. It was the first-year show this year, and they had Johnny Jackson went up to Prince George of all places. And from what I heard, Johnny Jackson was sitting in the crowd. So how cool would that be to get on stage and have Johnny Jackson sitting there looking at you while you're on stage, in Prince George? That's pretty cool. So we definitely appreciate everything that they do up there. And then the year-end show for the open stream of Tier 1 is the Popeyes Classic, which will happen on November 13th. And now it takes us to the new traditional stream, and you'll see we've actually added an additional show to this. So we have 2 Tier 1 shows, which was the Western Canadians, is now called the Kelowna Classic, put on by Ian Tomlin, who is now 15 or 16 years, I believe, going on with the organization. So you have a really fine-tuned oil machine up there where everything happens on time, takes place, and it's really one of the marquee shows on our calendar. Second to that, we have introduced the Van City Showdown, which is a show that I will actually have the privilege of promoting here in Vancouver. And I will tell you, it will be a show produced like no other. When you show up at the Massey Theatre, you will not believe or think that you are at the Massey Theatre. I can tell you that. We are well on our way to producing an incredible show there. You will feel like a professional stepping on the show for the first time, or for re-qualifying for a level 1 show. And then of course we have the BC Cup, which is the new test of provincials. And I'm going to turn it over to Dean Brandt to further talk about that show and how you qualify, who qualified, and stuff like that.
Thank you, Corey. Welcome everybody for coming. My name is Dean Brandt. I've been a show promoter with BC ABBA for the last 8 years with my wife, Lee Brandt. I want to thank the organization for putting on today's seminar. This kind of reminds me of back in high school when you would dress up, put on your football jersey, and everybody would meet in the gym for a pep rally. So everybody should be excited about this coming year's shows. With all the additional shows, and for the first time ever, we've got 2 different streams. And let me first say that myself and the organization, we're not here to judge you. So whenever you decide on what tier you're competing in, that's up to you. But for the first time in history, you have that choice. Not just a clone show and then qualifying, going to nationals without first going to a BC. And traditionally in the past, that step is a big one, and our organization, the athletes haven't done well on the national scene at the Worlds because of that. So I'm excited and privileged, along with my wife, to be hosting the first BC Cup. It is a traditional or natural BC championship. It'll be on June the 4th, and because of this, to commemorate this new show, we have the large BC Cup. Everybody that places top 5 will receive a Niels Anderson trophy. The overall bikini competitors will receive a tiara, and all of the overall winners from the first show will have their names inscribed and placed on the cup. So each year it'll be on display, and you'll have your name cemented in history on the BC Cup. So, thank you. So the way it works this year's, we're 13 weeks out from the Kelowna show, so I wanted to make sure we had this seminar today because I had a chance to decide, because next week is a 12-week starting prep for the Kelowna show. There's many trainers here today, so if you're a new athlete, make sure you introduce yourself to one of them. Testing?
Testing. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 12 weeks out from the Kelowna Classic, top 5 at the Kelowna Classic will qualify for the BC Cup on June the 4th. Top 5 at the BC Cup will compete a month later, June 25th, at the International World Qualifier. And you have your chance of earning a pro card by winning overall in your category. From there, if you're competing in Kelowna or the BC Cup, you can qualify at Corey's next show, which is October 15th. And the qualification starting at Corey's show will qualify you for 2017. It will be top 3. So definitely consider competing this year and earning a top 5 to get to the BC Cup. So I'm going to turn things back over to Victoria, and she's going to explain in more details about the 2-tier system. Thank you.
I don't know if funny looking Victoria or not. So I'm actually going to talk a little bit about 2017. As Robert already alluded to, we are can anybody hear me?
Put the mic closer.
Pretty good.
Closer.
Closer?
Thank you.
As Robert alluded to earlier, we are Agents for Change here in British Columbia, and the things that we're implementing here in BC are echoing across the CBBF and all the way up to the IFBB. So you'll see there'll be new opportunities coming this year as well as 2017. We will look at geographically expanding as well next year into 2017. So if anybody within the membership base feels that there's a need to have a show in a certain region, we certainly encourage you to step up and voice your opinion to see if it would be economically feasible to place a show in other areas that we currently aren't. Through that, we do want to continue to promote opportunities for our members and for our athletes to be able to aspire to their dreams and give them the opportunity to compete, on a fair and even playing field, which is why we have the 2-tier approach. And also be able to continue through the ranks so that we have more members representing British Columbia on the national level as well as in international events. The more publicity that we get on the world stage, the more that we can continue to make our sport go from a niche sport and actually appeal to the masses, the better off everybody within the actual organization will become recognized and will be more credible for it. The future of the sport is actually quite bright. You are, at the beginning of a roller coaster that is going to take off and it's going to skyrocket. This sport in general, but also healthy living is taking off. And every single one of you, every day when you are in the gym, are a representation of this organization, of this sport. You guys are the ambassadors that everybody else looks up to. So I definitely put it upon you to be a positive role model to people in the gym, people that ask about competing, people that are thinking about competing. Don't deny them. Stand there, be a positive change, support people, help people wherever you can. To be involved and to actually aspire to get on stage. We introduce these classes so that if you have someone who is active and someone who works out at the gym, they don't have to be a bodybuilder, someone who's put 10, 15 years into their life of training to compete anymore. We have classes such as classic physique, men's physique, bikini, things that people can be training for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and get up to a tier 1 show and have success. So we certainly hope and we will continue to do everything that we can to be able to offer you guys the platform to reach your goals. Now is it back to Victoria?
Yeah, thanks.
I'm going to try to get another mic, but we'll see how far it goes. Oh, Ray wants to be closer. Pop a little bit in. So what the next kind of part of the presentation is to explain what this whole performance ethics and compliance is, because I realize it's kind of a really odd name. After I actually came up with what we were doing within the BC ABBA right now, I got told I had to name it. Really difficult thing. So hopefully by the end of this we'll really get out and tell everybody what it is, and you guys are going to be able to help actually do that, because like I said, this is the first time this has ever happened. In other corporations, from banks to hospitals, they have departments of compliance and ethics. So anybody familiar with any of those departments? So for example, when the financial crisis happened in the States, they had to bring in all these new boards for the banks to be able to have ethics and compliance. So not just create rules and ideas around it, but also to be able to, unfortunately, enforce them. Now, by no means am I an enforcer. I really probably would have a hard time doing that right now with one foot. But I'm simply here to tell the BC ABBA what's happening at the top, and then, like I said, translate it so we can actually see our athletes get to the stage and progress through the ranks. So just a little bit of a brief introduction to why we even have to do this. And like Robert said, this is a lot bigger than us in the BC ABBA. So, show of hands, how many of you guys have faced some type of, let's say, negative stereotype about being a bodybuilder or lifting weights? Whether being called a dumb meathead, dumb jock, it's just a juice monkey, oh, you really want to look like that, you're a girl, don't lift. Okay, we've probably all heard them or faced something along those lines. Do you see those same type of stereotypes in any other sport? Not really. So why are we the ones that usually are busting our behinds in the gym, 16, 20 weeks of prep, 15, 30 years training to face some type of essentially just being ostracized? Anybody know? It's really crystal clear.
Ignorance.
Huh?
Ignorance.
Insecurities, ignorance, exactly. But it's also a direct link to a certain route of entry to our sport. Okay? Drug use. Now, in part my job at UBC is I'm a lecturer, and I get to lecture a lot of different pre-med students, physio, and things like that, and really break down a lot of the misconceptions about performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not going to do that today. Maybe that's another seminar to do, but I am going to try to ease into that conversation because it really does sit at that core of why the IFBB has said we need to have 2 streams. Okay? So, really, what we're doing is we're creating a new way of thinking about the athletic body. So we're trying to take these negative stereotypes, put them to the wayside, and present bodybuilding for what it is, which is an absolutely phenomenal feat. There are not many other sports that people diet, train, pose, everything else. So that's really, really what we are trying to put at the forefront. But in order to do that, we have to be neutral. Because if we simply keep calling things tested, non-tested, natural, doped, we're not going to go anywhere. And you're going to have seen that if you look back. 1988, Ben Weider tried to put the bodybuilding into the Olympics. He got laughed out because nobody thought that athletes were natural, simply because of the ideas we have around the muscular body. So see what I mean? It's a lot bigger than us. We're just putting some stuff into play now, into action. We're also aligning with a lot of the new current research that's coming out. So there are different organizations that actually promote doping control, drug testing, and we do work with them, but we also work to try to provide some type of choice for an athlete. So the athlete has a choice on which route they want to take. And last but not least, help improve your guys' experience. So whether it's volunteering or educating other athletes or competing, that's what I'm here to do. That's really at the end of the day what my job is. Yeah?
Just one quick question. Is it going to be a stream, we're talking about the new avenue, where it's avoid getting tested to get caught, or naturalness?
Can I answer that when we go to Q&A?
Sure.
Okay. Just restate it because I might answer that. Okay? So, the whole Department of Ethics and Compliance, essentially, at the end of the day, guys, we can't tell you what to do, what to take, what not to take. That's on you. Just like you decide whether or not you're going to speed, run a red light, jaywalk. Okay? But we have, in the BC ABBA, in the CBBF, we have been told by the IFBB that we have to have a certain standard of drug testing that utilizes the World Anti-Doping Organization. We have to do that, or else we cannot be an association. Therefore, there would be no more BC ABBA. There would be no more CBBF. That is now a mandate. So we are complying to what we've been told, and we are also helping you guys to be able to know the rules, choose, and progress forward. And again, to performance. So performance is simply, I mean, what you guys do in the gym, it's a lot bigger than just lifting weights, and that's what we're trying to help to be able to do, making up our division. So, going into just the basics, this is important for some of you guys because there are opportunities to get involved within the whole division of performance ethics and compliance, totally outside of competing, volunteering backstage. So within our division right now, and this hasn't even been uploaded yet on the website, so this is all brand new information we're sharing with you. There's a director's role. I just oversee, help where I can. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty. If you want to know, come talk to me after. I will show you a whole bunch of different documents. I do have a manager, so Dawn is my manager, and funny enough, I've known her for 10 years, since Platinum Gym back in like 2006 now, and she was actually one of the first people that got me into the sport. So it's an honor to be able to work with her and let her help me get my little academic brain out to you guys. Okay? And there's also this peer. So you would have seen on the posters for even this event, it said presented by peer. So that is the Committee on Performance Ethics, Education, and Research. That's you guys. If you want to get involved, please come talk to me. There are lots of different positions. How many of you guys were at the AGM? Okay, so anybody remember what our President Ross had talked about for opportunities of even going into schools, doing seminars in the community? So this is what peer is going to be doing. And so it is an awesome opportunity to get involved at a completely different level, trying to really promote health, education, and really just the sport we all love. And just some of our jobs, and I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff. I just put this up because I know there has been, how can I phrase this? I want what I do to be completely transparent to you guys. That really, I'm like Switzerland, okay? I want to try to provide this neutral grounding, and so please come talk to me if you want more details. I'm more than happy to let you guys come help me. So why do we PEC? I've already pretty much said this. We've been told, World Anti-Doping Organization, they have signed with the IFBB, and it is official. You have to have one of our divisions. From that, we have the IFBB actually creating this massive, it's an 86-page document outlining all the little rules about competing in the IFBB as they relate to WADA. There's minutia, okay? My job is to translate that for you guys. Try to make it easy. And as BC athletes want to progress through the ranks, if we do not have drug testing in BC, you cannot even go to the world qualifiers anymore. So it would stop there for you. So if you wanted to one day compete on the IFBB amateur stage, so those are the international shows, you would not be able to. So if you are at AGM, you would have loved the little graphic that is going to come next. Really simple. I got told that to use as many pictures as possible. So we have our IFBB, obviously we're linked through the CBBF, and that's us, BC ABBA. So we are a progressional organization. We have the World Anti-Doping Organization and the IFBB, they join together, they make an awesome, awesome book for you guys that we have to now get out to you. Canada then has to make their own book, which as a provincial organization of the CBBF, we get to use. So all of our policies are created by the CBBF. So any of the rules, I'm sorry, it was not me making them, but I can help with questions and I can usher concerns to the CBBF and to the IFBB about them. We also have a partnership with Drug Free Sport. So they're a national sporting agency that does doping control, drug testing for pretty much all the NCAA schools, most of the national Olympic organizations. They are affiliated with WADA. They're the only organization that's affiliated with WADA. So if you see another bodybuilding organization that says that they are WADA approved, if they don't have agents from Drug Free Sport, unfortunately they're not. Bottom line. So with the traditional stream, we're using this policy book. This policy book you guys will be able to find online. It's completely open, free access to you. Please take a look at it, especially if you are planning to compete in the traditional stream. It's very, very important that you take a look at it because it is got tons of different information about substances to the actual process of doping control that's going to happen at we've got Drug Free Sport, that's our organization coming up, and of course our partners in the middle there. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. A lot of the stuff I've already talked about, but essentially if you are a BC ABBA athlete and you want to get to the world qualifier, you have to follow the book. If you want to go to the world stage, you have to follow the book. Okay, so again, ethics and compliance, that's all we are doing here, and we're trying to create some type of atmosphere to allow that to happen. Yeah.
You guys, in terms of the traditional registration form, this was the delay. We have to be in contact with Drug Free Sport of America, WADA, some IOC executives. We are now going to roll this out. It'll be live next Friday. We have just received the information that is required for terms and conditions in the traditional stream. This will be linked to a downloadable PDF document, which will clearly outline the terms and conditions in plain language, which will reference to the legalities that will be found in this book. This will be linked. The information is there. We are information providers. Do your due diligence when you download the book. You cannot press submit unless that is downloaded. And this is a caveat in terms of competing in the traditional stream. So if there was ever a question in terms of when that registration form will be up, this is the reason why. Sorry.
FAM Pro, do we have any athletes competing in FAM Pro? Awesome. So that was the first time that this partnership happened anywhere. So it was actually, I don't know if you guys realize that, but it was like brand new, cutting edge. That's why I was bumbling around the place, working with our Drug Free Sport agents, working with you guys. Drug Free Sport, we are working with them to actually provide you guys with athlete education. So when you have questions specifically, if you're a coach and you have questions, you can go on their website and talk to medical professionals that answer it, and it will help guide whatever it might be. And they're all going to be compliant with the IFBB rulebook, which is really important because every single organization has slightly different rules going on. This information, so if you guys have been on the new website, all of this stuff is already posted under an FAQ section. Okay, so some of it I just put up here just to be able to get people thinking about it, but ultimately I really suggest taking a look at that. If if you're a coach, if you're an athlete, if you're thinking about competing. So with doping control, again, that's not something that we've defined. That's something that the CBBF has. That's from their policy. So essentially, looking for substances that are prohibited. Who's making up the rules? Our partners. All we do in BC is we have to translate. And this is the same thing that's going to be happening all across Canada, is this translating of the rules, but it's the CBBF that puts them into motion. Doing the actual testing, there are agents from WADA. Okay, so they are trained professionals. Everything is confidential. They have no idea who you are, who your coach is, how many years you've been competing, what you've been competing. They have no idea at all. I gave a massive tutorial about bodybuilding to the organization because they've never even worked with bodybuilders before. So understanding things like, hey, if I'm dehydrated, it might take me a couple hours to have a sample. They know that, they recognize that, and we're working with them to create systems for that. Because that's something that is unique to our sport. I think at Bam Pro, I overheard a really funny conversation between one of the athletes and the agent saying, oh, don't worry about it, just chug some water. And the athlete kind of was like, I have a photo shoot tomorrow. So again, that's something that is unique to our sport, and that's our job to make sure that is known to make your guys' life a lot easier. So what substances will be tested for? So this is right from WADA. I mean, these are just the basics. You have stimulants, you have narcotics, you have anabolics, diuretics, peptides, mimickers. You also have prohibited methods, which we don't really, they're not as common in bodybuilding. But the most important thing is that you guys are responsible for educating yourself. And I'm going to talk about some of that nitty-gritty because in the course of 1 week, I received 27 emails asking me about the same substance. So, from different people. So, kudos to you guys. But it's confusing, and I completely understand that. That's why we're working with Drug Free Sport to try to get you the resources so you can get that confirmation. You can print out that letter, and if anything does happen in the process, you have your back covered. So, is there a list of banned substances? And the answer is no. Why? Anybody know? Anybody in pharmaceuticals, supplement industry? Why?
It's too extensive.
There's a lot to cover. What else?
It's changing.
Thanks. Bounce behind me. Okay? And seriously, guys, something you guys can actually help answer. So why? Yeah, so there's some things that you have to have medications. If you are an asthmatic, you are going to be using a substance that's prohibited. You're a diabetic. If you really like caffeine, there is a limit to that. Okay? Certain diuretics for heart conditions. If you are on some type of hormonal therapy, all of that has to get cleared. This is new. Other little issues too, and this is from Drug Free Sport directly, is that in the last couple of years there has been a ton of lawsuits about mislabeling ingredients. And this is something that you really need to watch out for because, I mean, there was one lawsuit settled about a month ago of a company that they had a prohibited substance in a pre-workout that was like equivalent to meth. So people were getting sick. There were some deaths surrounding it, which is terrifying. Okay? So the FDA stepped in. It's been a 3-year lawsuit. But trace elements, we do not know what's in everything we take. So quite simply, Drug Free Sport says use at your own risk. Even if something you believe is to be 100% natural, it is still used at your own risk. That's where this comes back to ethics. What do I personally think is okay to use? What do I personally think is going to help my bodybuilding journey in the way that I want it to? Because bodybuilding, at the end of the day, it is an individual sport, but we work together to try to elevate you to get to the next level. There are some additional resources, but really important red lettering. This is not exhaustive, and they are not complete, and this is why. Canada versus US. There are certain substances that are allowed in Canada that are not in the US, and vice versa. There are also certain substances that if you search, say, in, right here, the sport database, say you try to search Yohimbe, it won't come up. Why? It's a medical agent. If it's considered to be a medicine, it will not be listed in a sport supplement data bank. Just like if you try to search a medical agent to see if it's appropriate for therapeutic usage, it won't come up, okay? So you have to make sure you're searching in the right places. Also, WADA likes to use technical formal names. So like beta-2 agonist, they don't use the chemistry more known name from it. Medication, so if you are somebody that has questions about medications, please contact me directly after you go through your first 2 routes. Number 1, just make sure that your substance is a prohibited substance, so if it's not even anything to worry about, carry through. If it's something that is, find out what you need to do. All those protocols are listed, and if you have questions, please email, it's really easy, PEC@bcabba.org. Okay? And your answer will be hopefully provided. If not, I go to WADA directly, or I get them to contact you directly, if I can. That is what my goal has been. And then in the next coming weeks, you guys will actually be able to sign up to a data bank and do that yourselves. Who will be tested? So there's guaranteed testing for the first place and overall winners, and then there's going to be subsequent testing as well. However, everybody in the traditional stream must be aware that they could be tested. That's the CBBF that has mandated that. Okay? But really, it is expensive, and we do not want to have $2,000 registration fees for everybody to compete in one show. So, we have created an algorithm. It's random, it's computer generated. The doping control agents are going to be doing this, not us. And you guys will only be known as your reg number, not even by your name. So, being anonymous, really, really important to this whole process. And last but not least, what does this mean for you guys? Kind of touching off Bert's question, and hopefully I can wrap into that a little bit more. But it means that what we have in place for the traditional stream is like the top you can go. It is the safest, it is the most professional, most proficient that you can have in the world. This is at the same level that the Olympics are being tested. We have the same testers. The guy that came up for Banpro, who's organizing it, he goes around and does Olympic testing. We are trying to promote athlete health, welfare, and choice. And I highlight choice here because our sporting world, and this is where I can get all sociologists on you guys, but our social world, it really limits our choices, okay? And there are certain substances that I will even admit are really, really silly to have certain stipulations around, like caffeine. I'm a big coffee drinker. I would get flagged on WADA's list for the sheer amount of caffeine I produce in a day. But that's the rules. So if you want to go that route, please go for it. If you want to take the open route, go for it. We are neutral. We are neither one nor the other. And I really hope that by showing a very basic diagram, it really shows to display that. We are the BC ABBA. We simply just have 2 streams within us. At the end of the day, we are all doing the same thing. We are all grinding it out in the gym. You are just having a choice on how you have your journey. Now, why these weird terms? Anybody know? Why did we go with open and traditional? Why didn't we just stick it with natural?
So there's no stigma?
So there's no stigma, exactly. Because why should we further what others have done to us? If we want to keep going mainstream and to increase the growth and the wealth that is bodybuilding, we have to try to be neutral in the ways that we do this. So this is something that I'm giving you guys to do. Please try to use neutral discourse whenever you talk to your clients, whenever you talk to your friends, your family. This is something that you're going to see now slowly rolling through all of bodybuilding because we're working with a lot of, I'm working with my research, totally outside of BCABBA, but we're working to roll that ball forward. And you're going to see the same shift in language happening everywhere. But because bodybuilders unfortunately have been subjected to the worst of the worst, it's starting here as a catalyst. So now I'm going to open up to you guys. Yeah.
Being the historian that you are, tradition means for a long time, we've always been here since the beginning. So isn't that kind of a misnomer?
Have we though? Mr. Universe was a tested show. Mr. America was a tested show.
When people think of bodybuilding, they think of Arnold right away.
Yeah.
And Arnold's been cranked since the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a misnomer.
Yeah.
Tradition has been consistent.
But tradition means going back to the roots, going back to the foundations, and going back to the natural body.
Going back to the 30s and 40s, that's when, that's what we mean by traditional, going that far back. That's tradition. That's how it all started, naturally.
So think about the introduction of, I wish I had this slide, but a couple weeks ago, I put 4 people up on a slide. I had an ancient Greek statue body. I had Eugene Sandow, we all know who he is. Please say we all know who he is. Founder of bodybuilding. I put Arnold, and I put the recent Mr. Olympia men's physique. They all have the same physique. So whether we want to go all the way back to ancient Greece, whether we want to start at Eugene, whether we want to go into Arnold, I need nitty-picky. All we're trying to say with traditional is that it's going back to the personal traditional body, the natural body, but we had to pick a word that wasn't going to be misappropriated into something that it's not. Because if we keep using that word natural, that means guess what? Everybody in the open stream is not natural. That means everybody's drugged. That means everybody's doped. And we keep going that vicious cycle that we have been stuck in over and over and over again. It's simply a way just to try to break it. Guess what? It might not work. But we have to try, we have to take a stance to try to progress bodybuilding forward. Yeah.
And just to kind of piggyback on what you stated, as far as the ethics and the education of schools and other younger generations coming into this industry, tradition is an appropriate way to put it, because we don't want to instigate that concept into their brain that bodybuilding is, that even if they are completely foreign to bodybuilding. So there's a component that I completely agree that tradition, saying tradition is the way to go, because one, it neutralizes all components, all aspects, and it opens the gate for somebody that wants to get into this industry without having the stigma of this is, bodybuilding is all about drugging, all about doping. So tradition does give a separation that allows somebody to come in and be proud to do this. So I completely agree with that.
At the end of the day, we're all the same thing though, right? We're all BC ABBA athletes. And that's really why that main preference is on you guys and the choice that you take. Yeah.
Do all the other provinces, they already have this in place? This whole tier system, like Alberta and...
It's slowly coming into place, but right now we're working directly with the CBBF, and then this is going to be unveiled. But all these small little microstructures had to be placed first in one province, and that's us. We're the agents of change.
Yeah, let me further, whose question was that? So this is what's happened, right? The CBBF has basically said, BC, lead us. And we're saying, okay. Hence our position, hence the seminar. So what we're doing is, we are not beta testing anymore. We are saying, follow us provinces. So eventually what's going to happen, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, they have a tier 1 structure that's going to be traditional. And so what does this mean? How do they get to the world qualifiers? Well, guess what, guys? They're going to be coming in here. If that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. We don't want that. Right now, doors are closed. Say, hey, no provinces. This is only for British Columbia residents. So we have to do this in order for them to have an opportunity to get to the world qualifiers. They don't know what to do. Why? Because if they did, it would have already been implemented. So we are pioneering this. So you're going to see a wave across Canada. 2016, 2017, by 2018, every province, the strategy in place is that every province will be then emulating what we've got in our structure, our peer system, the directors, the organization structure that we have here in BC, every province is going to adopt. So this is why, when we say it's bigger than just us, people are waiting for what's happening here in terms of what to do. Okay?
Do I have world qualifiers? It's just majority or almost everybody is just from BC, so it's not quite.
Remember this, right? In order to get to the world qualifiers, you need to be WADA approved, right? So there's a missing link that the CBBF realized, oh my gosh, we're not compliant to what's going on from the top. So all these athletes, in the past, we've had athletes come into BC to get to the world qualifiers, but they've never had their stepping stone in each province. So as a result, we are creating the structure to then cookie stamp right across the province, all the way to Ontario. Okay? Good.
Just to clarify, we were WADA approved in the past because they went through an audit compliance. That's what happened. So there was a stagnant point when their testing was kind of in a bit of a skew. So they had to go through a complete audit compliance for us to get WADA back into place. So that's kind of what happened. So we had WADA, we had testing before, we had drug testing before, and it was all approved before. But there was a bit of a misconception with the CBBF and WADA.
Yeah, there's been complete fracture along the way. Like IFBB, CBBF, and us in BC ABBA, there was no communication at all.
So what I'm saying is that there isn't any, I guess, anything new. Is
No.
what we say moving forward. It's still WADA, it's still the same bound to the substance list, moving forward,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So this isn't anything new.
It's a lot of new.
Well, I mean approval and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm saying
approval
WADA
is
itself
the same idea.
was what we used previously.
Yeah, and in BC, like, the other thing too is that when I first was approached about this, it wasn't as BC ABBA member, it was as a researcher, and then as somebody that people knew I was in bodybuilding, I liked to lift weights, going to conferences, but it was to get my opinion on it, and it was from powerlifting, it was from some of the other iron sports, asking what we did here, and then we tried to start putting steps into play. Because other iron sports do have testing, like powerlifting, they have those progression ranks through. The other thing I just want to note, just with kind of the whole conversation there, is that Ontario is working on this as well. They do have a provincial level competition because they have a natural stream. It's just not as developed at the moment, but they're working on it. Trust me when I say that. It's also their structures getting put in right now throughout everywhere in the world. Why don't you guess?
Okay, I got kind of a twofold acquisition with that new info. So if BC is doing something a little bit new and it's a little bit different, then how come the World Qualifier would be in New Brunswick and how big it's just a BC thing?
No, because all the athletes are athletes that are already qualified to go to the World Qualifiers prior to the mandate of the 2015, the new water relationship. So if there are people that are already qualified, they can keep that for now. That's not us saying that at all. That is the CBBF, because they have to grandfather this whole new two-tier, two-stream approach system into Canada. Okay. So there's going to be a little bit of growing pains, I guess you can say, the best way to say it, because other provinces are still getting in the loop. But there are these new formal rules saying, like, I'm sorry, let's say Saskatoon, I guess they got their provincials, so Saskatchewan provincials. If your athletes have not been tested, you cannot go into the World Qualifier.
Okay, and then
But that's going to come. This is a process. We're just on the cutting edge of it.
okay, and then
But there's always been a world qualifier.
Yeah.
right.
It's just they renamed it the International World Qualifier.
Okay.
BC will be the world qualifier to get to the international.
Okay, and then so with the two new streams, if you're already qualified for the regular BCs, do you want to give yourself options? Can you still go do Kelowna, get qualified for the traditional route, and still go to both BCs, or do you have to choose? Like, could you compete in both BCs this year?
Absolutely.
Like, if I'm qualified for regular BCs, but I want to give myself options, can I jump in this year
Yeah.
and do Kelowna and also?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to answer it pointedly, is this: we give you choice. If you want to, if you've qualified up this river,
Yeah.
you can't just jump
No, yeah.
back around, boom. But again, it's choice, right? So if you can do both BCs and you are that 0.001% of the population that don't need drugs to compete at that level, kudos to you. We encourage you to do that.
Okay.
You know, I didn't have choice, right? I finished the Western Canadians. I go, now what? I got to compete against guys that are 250. Holy cow! I don't have a choice, but we're giving you this choice now. Okay? Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the traditional stream going to continue into the IFBB? Will there be testing in the IFBB?
Well, there's two different. So technically, by the book, every single IFBB amateur league, so not pro league, is tested. However, we know that's not necessarily always true at the moment. which is why the IFBB they're making these changes and having to actually develop 2 streams to be able to follow the mandate that WADA has said that they have to do.
So one day there will be a separate stream within the IFBB.
There already was Mr. Natural Olympia.
They have a show in Spain last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are different shows along the way. It's just now getting rebirthed because of this new relationship, and it only just happened in 2015. Yeah, Michelle.
I can just clarify your question. So there's 2 different streams. There's an IFBB International, which is an actual amateur league.
Yeah.
So you cannot be a pro and compete in the international league. And then there's the pro league, which is when you're an IFBB pro, it's not tested.
Okay.
So if you just decide not to say you turn pro, you can choose whether you want to stay an amateur and compete in the international league. You can be, you know, there's tons of Arnold amateurs that competed, but you can't compete in it as a pro. And yes, you would be tested. Done that. So that's the type of, or you can take a pro card and go compete.
And as to like having a pro tested league, that we'll see what happens. We'll see what the next 10 years brings. Yeah. Yeah, it says, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So technically in the contracts there is a clause that says that. Yeah.
So my 2-part question. Usually when you qualify in your regional, you get to go to provincials, right? Okay, so then last year, the people that qualified in Kelowna and did last year's provincials, do they now this year get to go to the traditional provincials, essentially getting to compete in provincials twice? Like,
Yeah, it's your choice.
but they've already done a provincials.
So at this point, then you qualify for World Qualifiers. If you've done your provincials, right, and you
Okay.
competed at the BC provincials, then you move up into Canadian National.
But then if they didn't qualify the BC provincials to go to national, but they qualified at a regional show to get to the traditional provincials, but last year there wasn't a traditional provincials,
Yeah.
this year they get to the traditional provincials, although they've already competed in provincials?
Yeah, no, I'm following your logic. Yeah, absolutely. I'm following you. You know, that's a great question, and we have to deal with it carefully because we have to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. For us to blanket something like that is too over-encompassing.
Because essentially, because you get to, when you qualify, you get to either compete in that current year provincials or the next year's, right?
Yeah.
So if they've already done one, they could
Yeah.
use their provincial chance, but now because you're splitting the streams,
Yeah.
they're going to get the opportunity to compete twice.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. What I ask is this about yourself personally?
No.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll try and explicate it, and then possibly what will come out of this conversation will be something that we'll put on the website
Okay.
for everyone. That's a great question. Okay.
So are you saying, Rob, that there's a possibility that anybody who placed last year will not be allowed to
No, I'm not saying that.
compete?
No.
What I'm asking is that a possibility? So
No,
you have to go back
what I'm
and
saying is that we will look at
Right.
the situation on a case-by-case basis, and we'll have to make a decision based upon the evidence and information in front of
So you're
us.
going to allow the athletes to decide whether they want to do BC tested or BC non-tested?
Yeah, we want to give
You're going
choice.
to give them the option?
We're going to give the choice.
Because I think that's where some of the confusion is,
Yeah.
that everybody who plays top
We-
5 correct at Western is unsure of their route at this point. 'Cause
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year they assumed they could go.
Well, ideally, the whole purpose of being in the Western Canadians is to be a drug-free athlete, same as I was. So, you know, people thought I was on gear. I passed all the drug testing. So at the end of it, if you are competing in that stream and you are an individual that is using anabolic steroids, you will get caught.
But let's clarify, there was no technical stream at that point. We're now implementing a stream as of said year,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So in the past, anybody could have just went and qualified if they didn't want to go to Fort St. John, they went to
Yep.
Westerns instead, regardless of the stream.
Yep,
They
yep,
weren't
yep.
fully aware of the stream at the time. So now, moving in forward, 2016, we're now stating that we're going to give these athletes
choice.
a choice to do either or. Is that correct? I think that's all her question was.
Yeah, but this is also, if this is and it seems that this is going to be a question that's going to be brought up constantly. We want to communicate this to the marketplace. So
Right.
hence why I said let's sit down and let's come to some type of wording so we can make sure that everyone's on the same page. We want to give choice.
Isn't that only if they qualify through Kelowna?
Yeah.
Not.
No, only if they came through Kelowna. That's the sticking point of this. Is what do you do when you're now in Kelowna, right? And so the athletes that have competed through Kelowna, you know, we want to give them the choice.
And this isn't necessarily coming from us either. That's the other thing, is it is the CBBF making these decisions and helping actually create the stream process. So if there's qualifications that we don't know the direction an athlete's going to go, we pass that up the chain.
Then all we do is relay
There's a
information.
misunderstanding. All that I'm seeing is last year's Westerns, 4th and 5th placing, are they gonna have to do tested or are they gonna have to do not tested?
Choice.
Right, okay.
Choice.
Thank you.
But mind you, you guys understand. So you guys understand, if you get caught swimming in the wrong swimming pool, i.e. if you're a drug athlete and you're competing in the traditional stream, you're banned for life. Out of the IFBB. See you later. There's no questions. Like, it's that serious. So this is why,
2 years.
in order to
2 years.
life,
They changed it.
it's for life now, Michelle. This is a mandate that's come from the top. Why? Because we are aligned with the Olympic Committee. We are discussing these things with executives that are saying, "Look, we have to clean this up." This is exemplified by Dwayne Johnson now going to be the MC for the Olympia. Why? We're mainstreaming this. We cannot create a fracture anymore between drugs, non-drugs. It has to be one cohesive unit. And this is what we're doing.
The crazy part is that a lot of people don't understand, there's a lot of fresh people here. That 9 years ago, I competed in Kelowna. This is wanted. This is something that people talk about behind closed doors, but they don't really say much about it. So I think people can appreciate all the effort that's going in. Because it's a lot of work trying to get the rules, in place, adhere to them, how you guys understand them. But it is something that is wanted. It is something that I hear people talk about.
Rome was not built in a day. So this is something that I asked you guys earlier. Be agents of change. Be positive about this. If you're doing drugs, then just compete in one stream. If you want to be a natural athlete, compete in the other stream. It's that simple. I don't know. We're not building rocket ships of science here. This is very simple stuff here, and we're providing information. That's all we're doing. Okay. Question.
Yeah, and I think this has already been addressed. I just want to really clarify because I did send an independent email to somebody on the board a week or two ago. I have a lifetime buy from winning the overalls at the Sandra Whitman.
Yep.
And my question was whether or not I could compete in either of the tier 2s, the BC Cup or the BC Provincial. And actually the answer I was given was that I could only compete in what is now considered an equivalent stream of Sandra Whitman. So
Can you recall who gave you that answer?
I can find out, but
Okay,
it's
so again, like I said, during this change, you guys, there's case-by-case situations where we have to say, okay, here's the situation, we pass that information upwards, and then they make a decision, and then we just disseminate it downwards. So absolutely, approach us, and then speak to me in private in terms of what's going on.
So you're saying there's potential?
Oh, for sure, yeah. At this point, it's all about communicating and say, look, this particular individual, competing X amount of years, and then we go from there. Right?
And my question was much more about the qualification when I have to compete in Kelowna in order to progress to BC Cup. Or
in this case, what you can see in terms of the dates of the shows is that realistically you could prepare for Kelowna and then go.
Yeah, of course, as an athlete,
Right.
you want.
Of course. We are in the process of this change, so there's going to be eventually these kind of questions are going to taper off. Why? Because we've got a new generation of athletes that are 18 to 22, 23 coming through that we have now educated and said this is it. So when we're dealing with these case-by-case situations, we need just to have a conversation and we'll go from there. Okay? We have a question here.
So sorry, maybe you can just explain a bit more about, so those who competed in Pro-Am last year, what you said was sort of a beta testing for, can you compete in Pro-Am at the provincials, or do you have to now go back down to the BC Cup? I don't understand the people who qualify for Pro-Am, where they go.
Yeah, they go to the World Qualifiers.
So right here, so no. 2015.
Okay. Did I miss
Do you want to do that? So, Trish, I'm understanding that you competed in the Band Pro AM show, which was a Tier 1 show. So therefore you qualified for a Tier 2 show, which is the BC Cup.
Why can't I compete at Pro-Am, like the other show?
Anybody from Pro-Am last year, top 5. Anybody from Kelowna last year, top 5. Kelowna the previous year qualified to do the BC Cup.
Traditional round.
And then also, if anybody went to the World National Qualifier,
it didn't place in the top 5, go back to the BC Cup to re-qualify for the World Qualifiers.
My question about that is, at the 2015 Pro-Am, the title that was given to you as the top 5 was you are going to BC Provincial Championship over at that time because we didn't have the 2 streams.
Yeah.
So those 5 athletes right at that point thought they were going to like the next Pro-Am, which is going to happen with the BC show.
Yeah.
So that's what she's basically asking is, with thinking under that pressure you were handled that title, you're going to go do that show. Now you're sort of taking it back saying, well, sorry, you're not going to go do the Pro-Am show at that BC Provincial, you guys are going to go to BC Cup.
But we
Shouldn't
said,
they get to keep
but
what they
we
were?
said they have a choice.
We have a choice.
They have a choice, yeah, because the way it's done right now is they're just going to
No,
that.
but this is showing for the future, but, okay, think of it like this. All of a sudden I changed the speed limit from 50 to 30. People are gonna speed, they're gonna have questions, they're gonna get pulled over, they're gonna be confused, right? So if it is an individual qualification question, it's a lot better if we have a face-to-face conversation. That information that will get out, it's not that it's not transparent, it's just that we have to look at each show because it's really confusing when all of a sudden we've got Van Pro, AM, last year was WADA, Van Pro this year is not, it's a tier 2, it's an open stream, so it's confusing.
And on that case by case, you will receive a document that you can hold and say, this is what they said. Okay? Like this is not like pokey text message, no.
No,
Like
it's just
there's a
the way
formal
it
document
sounded
that
was
you'll
like,
receive.
they got rule changes, they're only going to that show, and I'm thinking, that's not
No.
fair.
At the end of this, we are giving you choice.
Okay.
So we're saying open, but we have to draw the line in the sand and say, from this point forward, moving, we have to. Okay. There's a question here first. Then
Sorry, so in my particular case, like
there is no more eyes. We have to talk about we's here. So we've already made that very clear. No more eyes. Eyes, email. I. No, I said this earlier. This is a we. Please, guys. For the sake of everyone's time, we only have about 12 more minutes left on this, okay? Question?
Exactly, so save time, just to summarize very briefly, anybody who competed at Western top 5, anybody who did the Pro-Am top 5, can either or do the BC Cup or do the Vancouver Pro-Am Provincial this year. Is that correct or no?
Yes. Imagine that these 2 arrows are just connected.
Yeah, but
Right? We're going to, so, 1 year, it's moving forward after 2016 now, the BC Cup for 2017.
Guys, we're almost done here. We're almost done. Yeah, this is to explicate where we have drawn the line in the sand moving forward.
So Bobby, just to clarify what Michelle's saying, that grandfathering those individuals from last year, Westerns and the Pro-Am, this year they have the choice of whichever
Correct.
cup that they choose.
Correct.
That's the stream that they've now chosen to continue moving forward.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And the caveat to this, so if you get caught,
Exactly.
you're done.
So whatever you qualify from, whether it's the traditional or the non-traditional,
Yeah.
whatever stream that you choose this year, you're giving that freedom
Guys,
depending on your qualification. Whatever stream that you choose from 2016 on forward, that's the route that you are committed to, and that's the route that you are following, unless you go all the way back down.
and go right to the beginning of the river and go all the way back up.
So does that clarify it?
I didn't mean
Pretty diagram, easy to understand stuff. We will put this on the website. So you guys will have access
This is
to
information for you guys. We obviously, you can see the changes on the website. It's constantly, it's not a static communication tool. This is very dynamic. We're trying to get this information out for you guys. Then here, then there.
So someone competes in Kelowna, since I'm asks, right? Someone competes in Kelowna last year, and then they, well, like, or no, sorry.
Okay, can I just for time's sake, guys, if there's a question related to qualifications, you can stay after, talk to us. If there's a question related to all the fun stuff that I talked about, bring it on. We got 2 minutes, and then we have to turn the tables over.
So we had a
Okay?
question.
So if it's
back
something
here.
about qualification,
Then we'll come to you.
table it, we'll talk to you guys after. If it's something more open, questions around the actual process, the streams, please, be my guest.
So there was a change about the age limit. What is the lowest? What is the youngest?
18.
18? Because there was 16, right? There was youth bodybuilders. Is it still available?
18. We have to. Yeah. Why? But it's possible. 18. Yeah. This is a mandate. We're not making the rules up. We're saying, okay, we'll take the heat. You know, I wish some of the executives and other, you know, and the higher ups were sitting here, obviously, to get grilled like this. But we are just implementing processes that they pass to us. Okay. No, there's a question here. Then we'll come to you.
So let's say you're competing in the traditional stream.
Yep.
And top 5 get their place.
Yep.
1, 2, 5.
Yep.
Let's say top 1 and 2 get tested positive.
Okay, so let me interject right there in terms of your testing. Okay? You guys, you're competing in the traditional stream, you place first, automatic. Sir, ma'am, come with us. Second and third, you are then placed in a pool. You are identified by your registration number. It is through a RAM sort function. If the show is less than 200, 33% of the pool get chosen. If the show is over 200, 50% get chosen.
Yeah, now I know where you're going though. If first place, say, tests positive, what happens to second, third?
Yep.
That's CBBF.
They don't get
CBBF decides. So the result management is not BC, that's actually CBBF. So if all of a sudden it comes back to CBBF that, hey, first place in, say, men's physique B tested positive, the CBBF decides what will happen. That information has not been released to us at this time.
Even if it's a BC ABBA show.
No. This is their show.
Yeah.
We are representing them.
Yes.
Be careful in terms of the terminology we're using. We don't create stuff. We are part of the CBBF. They are telling us what to do. They're receiving direction from the IFBB that are telling them to therefore tell what we are supposed to do.
And that's a question that I've posed to them that they've taken, like, I think it was last week or the week before the IFBB met for their annual meeting, that went there to try to find out the answer so then I can relay it back and put that on the website and get that out there, because that was a question that I had as well. Because then it really does change somebody's whole trajectory. The only problem though with that is that it takes time. So the result management from WADA, our samples go the day after a show. It takes 4 weeks for the CBBF to get first line contacted, and then another 4 weeks for the results to come in. So if
you're
you're trying to
have the
wait
next
to
show
get
by
to
that
next
time, you know what I mean? Because if you look at our show placements, it's every 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks as we try to place the shows.
Yeah.
So again, we're doing what we can.
And
So
then if an athlete challenges that and they want to go sample B, you're looking at another 6 months. So, and that's something that, like, my hands are tied, this is WADA doing it, it's not us.
But of course, as this continues to progress, so will they. Because we are then taking information such as this, disseminating upwards through the chain of command. And then at which point, they can make the changes appropriately.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
I can just say something quickly too. I mean, you have to be able to appreciate what's going on. A lot of victims have laughed about this in the past, about the divisions and the streams that we're creating. I think you can appreciate now that because there has been drug test failures and there hasn't been like a second place for what in first place. So I think you guys can appreciate that. Take it past. Because this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. So people who deserve to win, deserve to win. Clean.
Let the best person win. That's all we want to do.
This is why this will happen. It's very important that you guys understand it's for the greater good.
There was a question over here, yeah?
Yes, I'm one of the BCs this year,
Yeah.
and I'll be turning 68. My question next year, I'll be 70 next year. Now the question is, and I discussed this twice now right now, what about a category for people older? It is much difficult. It's much more difficult. I know in the States, down in Washington, they have it up to 80.
Yeah.
A pro bodybuilder friend of mine wants to do it on compete down there.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's nothing here in BC for older people. To identify the fact that even though every day is a fresh breath air for me, I'm still here. A lot of people here won't be or disabled, whatever down the road.
Oh yes, yeah. And what we're doing is we are taking this information from the marketplace such as this and saying, here's where we have to adapt due to our demographic and geographic region. This is what we have to do, right? So if it hasn't been brought to before, then this is where we need to be agents of change on this end of the equation and say, okay, let's implement this. So to say whether or not this is going to be done in 2016, I can't say because we have to now pass this information and say, are we approved to have this?
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
I also present, I just finished doing a presentation at a symposium as well, and in schools. I do it all the time. I just got invited to Hong Kong and Japan as well. I do a lot of presentations, but I get, because of the gym, I'm involved with a number of gyms. Snap Fitness sponsors me in Chihuahua. And because of me, I'm considered ambassador. A lot of senior citizens are now in the gym.
Yes.
So this is, but young people, the inspiration is for young people. I'm so flattered. I am just, I feel like a celebrity. I've developed this before. I'm serious. But the thing is, it's just so nice to see young people, senior citizens who have strokes or heart attack in the gym working, because maybe you or for example, look at you guys.
Yeah.
You know,
And so we want to give these individuals an opportunity to compete. Now, here's another example. Yeah, here's another example that hits more home. You're a personal trainer.
Not me.
No, I'm saying the example is this. You're a personal trainer. You've got a client. This person has lost 60 pounds. They're saying to themselves in the mirror, wow, I look good. Hey, maybe you should compete. Well, I don't want to do drugs. Well, now we've got a choice. You understand what I'm saying? This was emulated from Dean Brandt. He brought this up and said, this is what we're doing. You know, when we said, Dean, we need guidance. He's been a long time standing promoter. What are your thoughts? This is where he said, yeah, this is an excellent thing to open up a new demographic, new marketplace. So when we said we've got 5,000 people that are waiting to get into this association, yeah, these are part of the demographics that we've done the SWOT analysis on, where we're going with this. So you hit the nail right on the head. We are giving choice. Whether or not this is going to be implemented tomorrow, we can't say that. But what we can say, we are agents of change, and we're progressing this forward. So for sure, we're keeping that in mind. Sorry?
65, the first
share, yeah. Yeah, 180 pounds or something? 118? So again, right?
That's inspirational, that's what I'm saying.
But remember, you are on the cutting edge of this. Think about that, right? You are the ambassador of change for this. So this is where we encourage you to communicate with the organization and say, how can we do this?
Every time in the gym.
Yeah.
People of all ages come to me.
Yeah. So what I would suggest is that let's talk after and we'll get some ideas, okay? Sure. You guys, we have a couple of minutes. Can we afford a couple more questions? Yes, please. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if you compete at Kelowna, it does not affect your placing in the other streets.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so people know.
Yeah.
So if you're already qualified for the open street with BCs, to the Pro-Am, you can go and do Kelowna and qualify for the BC Cup.
Absolutely.
If you don't place top 5, it's not going to affect your...
Absolutely not. We want you guys to compete. What we've got to do is just create complete transparency and say, hey, you get caught, you get caught. You don't want to get caught, go over in that side. That's that simple. Okay, a couple more questions? Are we good? You guys, thank you for coming out to the first annual beer. Sorry, we're going to turn the time over to Ray.
Oh, I'm going to do it? Oh.
Guys, this is our digital media marketing manager. He's the one that's doing
I'll be quick. So, volunteers. I know that there's different departments and volunteers. Of course, my department is looking for helping with filming the shows. So I actually have 3 so far. Stephen Mumford, all right, Shannon, of course, and then Rachel Killian, and I'm still looking for 3 more, but that's for me to post later. Here we have is the lanyard equipment sign-up form. So when you are actually volunteered for a show, you will get a lanyard like this. All right?
Okay. Here, I'll take.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'm the director of competition, so basically I'm overseeing all the shows, working with all the promoters, working with all the volunteers.
Sean Tan. Her name is Sean Tan.
Kind of streamlining everything so that there's a little more fairness amongst everyone. One of the things we're doing that's been implemented is the lanyard equipment sign in and out form. Anyone that wants to volunteer has to pay a membership fee and has to send in a volunteer form. I receive it directly. And at which point, when we're doing each show, which you say which shows you want to volunteer for, you'll get a phone call, we'll set up a meeting, we'll over all the positions so everybody knows exactly what they're doing the day of the show, there's no confusion. At the athletes meeting and at the day of the show, this form is here. You have to see me, athletes meeting, prejudging, and night show. I will give you your lanyard. The time you sign in, the time you sign out, you will have to initial, and that will happen again at the prejudging. And then again, beginning of the night shift, at the night shift. This way, at the end of every show, we have all the hours accounted for all the volunteers for those vying for funding. So you will get what's coming to you. If we have too many volunteers, which is always excellent, the people that are vying for funding will get first choice whether they get to stay or go home if we have too many volunteers. Because if it's close to your show, you may want to go home. Or you may really, really want to come. So this is something that's mandatory. I also just wanted to touch upon, I know there's a lot of concerns and I get a ton of emails on a daily basis. You guys, we're not taking away your placings. We're not trying to stop you from competing in the show. We absolutely aren't. So we encourage you, and I hear so much in the gyms, people coming up and asking me questions. Email Bobby and I. Okay, we're here, and we want to know what you're thinking all the time. Because anything you come to us with, you guys go amongst each other, and we get to hear everything later on, secondhand, all hearsay. At least if you come directly to us and say, hey, we think this would be great for the association, or we think this is great for the athletes. We want to know, and then from that point forward, we can try and implement things. Yeah, though people, when you be at the AGM, you have to be there. If you're not there, then these things aren't going to be coming into play. So it's really important from the volunteer standpoint, from the AGM, which again, if you're volunteering and applying for funding, you have to be at the semi-annual and annual AGM, or you will not get funding. Again, you will be having to sign in and out, so I have an accountant. And I'm the one that does that. So important, these cost money, you guys have to give these back, or you will be getting contacted. And then I want to thank, this team is awesome. Like, I can't believe the changes. I started competing in 1990 with the BC ABBA, and my dad was competing since 1980 with the BC ABBA, and the changes are phenomenal in the last year. I think you guys are really fortunate, and it's unfortunate that we can't tell you every little change as they're happening. You guys have to wait, and then see them unfold, and then there's more questions. I guess what I'm asking is when you just can trust us. I know it's hard, especially with everything that's happened in the past, but we really are trying to do everything in the best interest. Which is why I want you to email us directly. Like, come in and ask. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. We're not going to get mad. We're not going to think, oh, this person, where are they coming from? We're not.
It's a complete open door policy. Okay?
Yeah.
We're no greater than you. You're just being given the task to do this. Okay? Hopefully some people in this room are going to be the successors to this. Because I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. You understand?
Here.
I don't want to.
I just started and I don't want to.
There's been about half the people in this room that I see every day, and I hear some of the things they say, and I don't have anything to do with that executive part, so you guys need to email these people.
And you know what? We might not always have the answers. Like, you might get back and they go, you know what? I'm not sure. I got to check with the executive. I got to check with the CBBF, or I got to check with the IFBB. And I'll do that. And there's some people in here that email me, they can attest to the fact that I will email back 2 days later and say, just so you know, I haven't forgotten about you. I haven't heard where you are. Yeah.
I just have a quick clarification question. Does it take away the promoter's ability to choose their own volunteers, or is that something that you work with on them? Because I know that for Popeyes, there are specific people picked for certain positions because they know how effective, because I helped with a little bit of that, but like how effective they can be at that position.
Yeah.
So is there like a working in concert with the promoter, or would it go directly to you?
Yeah, good question. The promoters at this point in time are going, a lot of promoters that have been doing this for a long time have a really great team already put together. So then I will get a list. They can tell me who they've used for what, or what they think we've been good at in the past. Then, of course, if I get 27 volunteers and they give me 10, I've got to top up the rest. Now, there are key positions, such as Steve Springham as a stage marshal, my assistant, Natalie. There'll be key positions. We're on headsets. Natalie will be handling the music, for example. So it's the same person at every show. I want to try and congruency for all the shows. So there's no confusion. So there's key positions that will always be the same people, that we don't have to retrain. And then there'll be, the easier positions, bikini bodies, glazing, stuff like that pretty much anyone can do.
But it is not
No, it's not easy, but it's not something you need to be for. We can show you at that moment, and then you're good to go.
So you guys, the purpose of this is what? It's branding.
You guys stated earlier, we've got some excellent promoters. I mean, Dean Brown's been running for years, Jenny Briscoe, Ian Tomlin. These guys have been awesome at running their shows. And there hasn't been chaos. Every show I've been to by the brands has been awesome. Unfortunately,
Exactly.
show Corey, but I've never seen any chaos backstage, or I think promoters for the most part, I think we got it under control. Not taking anything away from you, Sean, because I think this is a great idea as far as funding and keeping your athletes in check and volunteer, because that's probably been where a little bit of confusion's been as far as athlete funding. But as a promoter, I'm not sure if the position is taking away from some of the things that you said about other volunteers that we're going to need to coordinate with or work with on another level. Just my 2 cents.
Is there something specific you're referring to as far as your volunteers? Is there a specific?
No, I'm just saying if we're already running a good show, why this position? Where did this position kind of get into place?
Got into place because at this time, there's been at this time, there's been a lot of complaints that people that do want funding aren't getting positions for volunteering. And that is first and foremost. Those are our athletes that are going national, that are vying for a program. We want to be able to help them. So we need it to be fair.
Sorry, Sean, are you a funding director? I mean, do the people, if they need funding, then email you?
No, actually, we do.
Okay, so it's not a position.
Tamara gets this list at the end of every show, and Tamara's having the funding.
So your position wasn't created to make the funding fair?
No,
Is that not
my
what you just
position
said?
is to make everything congruent amongst all the shows.
Accountability.
So
What's happening is that people are showing up, they're standing there, 15 people on the side, Cap, doing what?
Not doing anything.
or leaving early, they just show up and
So you're looking after volunteers, basically?
and promoters.
And promoters and volunteers. I'm just
This is
trying
the
to clarify.
intermediary between the association and the promoter. This is the operational person.
Okay, so association and promoter, meaning association meaning everybody in the association?
Our organization, Cap.
Yeah, we.
Well, I was just touch on Michelle. At first I was like a little bit on the fence because I feel like I've got to get backstage, but I don't need help except for my volunteers. So at first I was like, what is she getting to take my job away from me? Like this is what I do. Like what you're doing, I feel like is what I do. But the more I looked at it, the more I talked to you about it, I feel like you're taking a lot of stress off of me as a promoter.
Operational.
Run my show better.
Operational.
So, and we do have a lot of volunteers, and I told Sean that, and I think that that's what has made my show run a lot smoother, is having volunteers that are members of the organization. And I do take an accountability when people email me who is a national athlete and who does want to volunteer at the show, and I do try to get them in. Like my key volunteers, there's like 6 key volunteers, and I need like 20 to 30 volunteers backstage. So there's lots of room for a lot of national level athletes to get in there. There's also a lot of national level athletes that don't want to volunteer, and they don't want to commit their time.
And I just say 2 things quickly too, and it's not negative, but I do recall as competing myself, being on stage and having to go on stage and needing someone to bikini by me and having been told this, well, I don't know how to do it. And then seeing this person go over to another girl bikini by me, and this person was wearing a volunteer line. I think that's horrendous. For telling people that they can't help who can. If you're wearing something like this, you're there to help everyone. So having some of these people in play and some of who they want, they have a team as well. I think that completes the difference. It's going to make everyone look better. Everyone feel better at the show. And we all want to be free. So the volunteers are going to help.
Not only that, but there's also been times at the Top Life show, is my most recent experience, that people take off and there's crap everywhere. The numbers, the athletes, like I can't even tell you some of the things I haven't been able to look at. It is pretty disgusting. But there will be volunteers that we place just to oversee and make sure the athletes are being used the beverage cameras, not just throw your crap everywhere, your food, it reflects on us as athletes and associations as well. Especially wanting to go back to the Upper Rock or wherever you guys decide to have your shows.
And having the check-in training is great because a lot of times it's just me and 1 or 2 other people cleaning up the whole venue downstairs, and everybody bolts after the show. All the volunteers volunteers. So yeah, so you guys be more accountable in and out is for us too. No, just guys go
So, how far back do you go as far as volunteer work and meetings? Because if you've gone to every single meeting and volunteered at every show, and you just happen to not be able to make the last meeting, does that like X you from being a funder?
Again, it's case by case, but once again, this is new implementation, right? If there is a situation, we encourage you, as we mentioned, is to email us and say, here's my situation, can we deal with this? We're talking about the new athletes that are coming in. And like we said, we drew the line and say, propelling forward, we have to do this.
And is it a volunteer position or
Volunteer.
is it an actual paid position?
There is no paid position.
Oh, right.
Okay, volunteer.
Everyone's a volunteer in this organization. That's why they're creating the funding system.
So nobody's getting paid?
You got it.
Here's a great example, guys. I don't know if you guys know my story. I don't compete. I've never competed. I can't compete because of health problems. All of this is on my own time.
Yeah.
All of this for the last, I want to say 8 months. Nobody's getting paid.
Thank you.
3 a.m. while I was putting together the PowerPoint still, that was volunteer. Why? I love this sport. This sport is what has helped me through the ups and downs of my life. There is no other reason than that. And if you guys have been going around to shows for a while, I've been here since 2006 at some capacity or another because I love the sport. So we're not getting paid. We're not getting anything other than what you guys get.
Except for Darren Clark.
That's called overhead.
That's called internet technology. You get paid for services.
Thousands every month.
Well, please stay and finish your conversation.
Thousands
Don't
every
your back,
month.
Ms. Sartor, if you can do it better, stand in front of anybody. Stand in front of people. Hey. If you can do it better, stand in front of somebody.
Okay, so just to clarify, you guys, any of the executives here are not getting paid. Okay, we are all volunteering. I'm for social media. Bobby, who does everything. Myself, Victoria, Natalie, all of us are volunteering our time. So if there's any question about who is getting paid, it's not worth having a huge discussion right now. If you want to come ask us, because Sartar has now opened it
And by
up.
the way, the financials are open and
Yeah,
available
anyone can see all our
24 hours a
financials,
day
everything.
on our website. If anyone wants to know where the money is going and how much is in there, because there is money in there and it ain't going anywhere.
Feel free. Feel free.
She did not say that.
Feel free. Cindy.
Do we have judges? Like,
of course.
I'm wondering what happens.
Listen, so let me put it on record. Let me put this on record, okay? The same way that we said that there's a line being drawn, there has to be now competency in the judging sector. Okay? So we're talking about the athlete that is in high school right now that in 6 years could be the next Mr. Olympia. This is what we're talking about. So in no way, shape, or form was it ever communicated that a judge was fired. Did you see the word fired? Did you guys see the word fired? So what's the miscommunication? What we said is we are creating an educational program. This will be sent out in 1 week in terms of the education platform. We are inviting everybody to be a judge. Okay, so right now there are the same judges as the judges. Judge, do your thing. But what we have to do is say, hey, in the future we have to have accountability. How do we know that there's competent judges? How do we remove conflicts of interest? How do we know that the judges that have clients, there is a clear-cut process that is not just replicated in BC, but is over Canada. And as a result, this is what we're trying to do here.
Fired was the wrong word.
Yeah.
It was refusal to sign.
Well, by refusing to sign a contract, how do we hold people accountable?
I agree.
Right.
So could some judges be changed then this year?
No, that's up to the chief executive officer, right? So.
Just with judging panels, if I recall last year, you stated yourself that there has to be a level of experience and there are certain sort of implications and checklists that these judges have to go through to be qualified that they are competent enough to be judges.
Yep.
So whether judges are fired or displaced or whatnot,
Yep.
bringing in new judges and saying, okay, you're keeping an open platform, those new judges have to go through that same sequence. They have to go through the same training. They have to know the sport. They have to have been involved in the sport. They have to understand what the aesthetics they're looking for and the criteria. So I feel like there's a bit of a contradiction in saying that the judges are still here. However, we're keeping it open for anybody to step into a
So
judging
what you have
position.
not realized is that the judges that are currently in place have created what is called this judge's handbook. This judge's handbook is pioneering what's
Yes,
happening.
that was discussed last year,
Right?
absolutely.
And so as a result, this handbook is what is going to be the platform for this educational program, where we're saying, hey, if you're a trainer, it's a 4-tier level. If you're a trainer, come, learn. So maybe you'll be able to better coach.
So is there going to be like a,
Oh, yeah.
because I know in track and field, we have different coaching levels that
Yep.
you have to go through, whether
Yep.
it's Athletics Canada or USAT at the time part of both components, that you have 4 or 5 tiers as a coach.
We're gonna have
that
4.
You have to go through and pass not just your knowledge base,
Yep.
your experience and your practical application
Absolutely.
in order for you to be part of Team Canada or Team USA's coaching panel.
But
Is that the same
this is what we've
implementation
replicated.
we're
We've
gonna
taken
have?
it from track and field, from the Olympic Committee. Because
Okay.
we've asked this. We've asked the question, how do we create this type of transparency in judging? And the Olympic Committee and executives that were in touch, here, this is what we do. Excellent. Okay, last question. Bert?
Do you think it's about the judging, but do you think it could be misleading to send out an email where it says these judges refused, we're looking for more judges? Because that's 2 points of concern in one email that are kind of contradictory. And for the assembly could have literally seen, oh crap, they refuse to sign, we have no judges because now they're looking for some. And I think a lot of people are
Why
like,
would you
what
refuse
the
to
hell?
sign?
I'll clarify that for you.
Why refuse to sign?
But maybe whatever was in the contract you don't sign on the first time.
Thank you.
Nobody does that. They look at it like, is this adequate to me? Is there something that I may not like the wording?
Now, what you guys don't realize-
And you're all on board and nothing shady going on. I don't know.
Bert, at the end of the day, what has happened was the judges have refused.
Right.
Okay? And then the chief
Did not refuse.
the chief executive officer, is going to go back and is going, the chief executive officer is going to go back, amend parts of these contracts to make it more amicable, right? Less complex. And what's going to happen is that the chief executive will call another meeting of the judges. More than likely, this will occur at the Lee Grant Muscle Classic, probably on the athlete's registration, and at which point the amendments and the information that they ask to be changed will be imported into that contract.
You're talking about transparency, but
Yep.
yet you didn't relay that to any of
You?
us.
Be careful with the term you. Because this is not what I'm covering over.
You said earlier transparency above everything. In that email, there was nothing in that about amendments going to be revisited. All you said was refuse to sign.
Okay.
We are looking for more. Do you think it would be more prudent to tell the whole story?
That was the whole story. Until Ross Duncan called me on Sunday evening, there was no talk about amendments. Do you understand?
Mr. West,
To me.
100% to Ross.
To me. Ross never communicated to myself.
Relayed to you that you weren't in the room, it was relayed to you that there was to be amendments made to the contract.
Yeah, Sunday evening.
Stated, yes.
Sunday morning was when the email came
It
up.
was Saturday afternoon, Bob, you were not in the room.
Sunday morning was the email was sent out, and Sunday afternoon was when he called me, when he got back from Kelowna. So obviously there's a little bit of displacement in terms of your times. You understand? Okay, so if he was to give me a call Saturday or Sunday morning, then this wouldn't have been a confusing point of
The
interest.
email was, Ross was not privy to the email.
Guys,
It was
you're
sent out.
skipping over stuff that members probably don't want to hear about.
Yes.
Why don't you guys all get together in a meeting at another time and discuss it?
Thank you.
Is this the first time the judges have had to sign a contract?
Absolutely.
And it should have been in place years
Someone
ago.
was didn't want to sign a
We
contract.
can't deal with shoulds.
You know what, the number one problem after the little surface stuff that we had this past year with the president removal and voting, and just all this fluff that's been going on, all this hate. Because that's what it is.
Well, anyway,
But listen,
all it is,
no,
no, I'm not listening anymore.
I'm not listening, don't cut me off.
All I'm saying is this.
The judges should be
All
accountable
we're asking
also.
for is a couple things to change.
That's it. That's what you guys are getting
That's
at.
all we ask. That's it. That's all we're gonna.
It's not
That's it.
biased
Everybody good with that?
against the judges.
That's it.
Accountability.
All we want want is accountability, right? We just want to make sure that people
And
know
everybody
exactly.
was just a couple things changed. That's what everybody wants to know. That's what happened. You want a couple words changed?
No one is
After
fired, no
changed,
one's this, no one's that. It just,
You
know,
guys have
this
to
is it,
remember
right?
as competitors.
What do you mean, you guys? I thought, what is this, you? I
No,
thought it was
you
we.
judges as
Don't
competitors.
do that.
Not
Don't
you.
even
Okay,
start.
sorry, you judges were former competitors, and when you guys were competing,
Wow.
you remember hearing all the things that people would say and say the judging is unfair, this is unfair. So this is why this is happening. It's not against you. No one's against you. And the contract is there for everyone to see. You can download it yourself. And that's, things are made amendments. So make amendments, but don't put it on like there's some fight against the BC ABBA and the judges.
Don't
We
look
like
at me
you
and
guys.
talk like that. I'm just saying
I'm
what we were
just saying,
asking,
you're yelling at
and I asked for an answer. Who says I was fighting here?
Leading off on a positive
Okay, so
note.
yeah, let's leave off on a positive
Speak to the
note.
wrap up the last thing.
I'm gonna say goodbye, but also to let you guys know at X Club on April 16th at 10:30 a.m. there is a workshop for posing put on by the BCABBA. You have to be a BCABBA member.
And that's open to all the members, not just, privately, and no one's.
Yeah, it's open to everyone. And we have people demonstrating the posing that are not necessarily directly involved with the BCABBA. We have Don Paltrow, we have, Billy Dunn, because we need somebody for classic physique to be demonstrating. We're hoping that Simone Della Rosa, she's on board, she's just trying to get book into flights, come up to bikini. Nina, she's no longer pregnant. We got Mirko Miras for men's physique, we got Fina for female bodybuilding and women's physique. So that's.
Oh yeah, it'll be on.
And then, yeah, we'll get an email and it'll be on the site.
So Corey, can you give us some closing remarks? Maybe on a positive note.
If anybody's interested in more of, the base of all this tutoring stuff, come talk to me because I am 100% in need of the peer committee, and that's a way to get involved and design it. Because right now it's a nebulous. I'm putting it out there that we need help to develop this, and it's an opportunity too to also get into the research, get into different opportunities, even if you're not sure, you're a trainer, whatever, talk to me, I need help.
And I'm going to say one last time today, but it'll be said many times, we are the BC ABBA, and your voice is just as important as anybody who holds a position, as long as you have a membership. So that's the one that's important. If you don't have a membership, please sign up for the membership on the BC ABBA website, bcabba.org. You will need to be a member if you do want to attend seminars in the future, a semi-annual and annual meeting as well. Second to that, I'd like to thank Gold's Gym for giving us this opportunity to use their facility today. If you do want to stay and train, all that I ask is that you can go to the front desk and you pay their daily drop-in fee to do so, but you are more than welcome to stay and do that as well. So.
Okay, excellent guys, thank you for coming out.
Yep, and there's goodies, please. Grab a bag.
This has been 6 Weeks Out. Your journey, your story.